This is an unpainted passenger car from MTH. It's in O-scale. It has a molded plastic body. The frame is a mixture of plastic and metal parts, and it comes with a complete interior on both the upper and the lower decks. For some reason, the upper deck does not have illumination, but the lower deck does, which is fine. I'm probably just going to display this on a shelf anyway. I think it's supposed to be a SuperLiner for Amtrak, but I'm not going to paint it silver with red, white, and blue stripes. Instead, I'm going to base this on the idea that a fictional rail line from the 1970s, namely AMROAD from the hit movie Silver Streak, maybe they were real, and maybe they continued on into the 80s and 90s, and if they did, some of their older rolling stock would need to be updated with a passenger liner such as this. This is a special modeling tape made by Tamiya. It's a little bit thinner than other tapes. That allows it to go over and conform to any raised areas on the model. The main benefit for me, though, is that by using this tape, you will not get any of the seep-through that you might with this blue painter's tape. As long as that first edge is done in the Tamiya tape, you can cover the rest of the big areas in the blue tape and you'll be fine. But when you pull this tape off, actually, you'll see that this nice edge is going to be something that you might see on an MTH model, a Williams, or Lionel train. The Tamiya tape is a little bit more expensive, but it is completely worth the money. This is just a can of silver from Rust-Oleum, and the can recommends to do several thin coats, waiting 40 minutes between each coat, which I did. I did that on the silver, and everything turned out very nicely. But, spoiler alert, I ran into trouble later on. There's a lot of nice detail on this model, which you get to see because it's never been painted before. So my intention is to do just a few light coats of red to keep this detail visible when it's all done, not too covered up with many thick layers of paint. It's nice. The vents, the horizontal molding, everything looks great. And I masked off the silver this time so that I could paint the sides red. The red turns out really well, except for one tiny little spot. This doesn't look too hard to fix. I will just give this a little wet sanding, mask off the lower part, and respray it in red. No problems, right? Well, if you're thinking there'd be no problems, that's what I thought, and I was wrong. Okay, so now the red looks great, but when I pulled off the masking tape over the silver, well, that tape had removed little patches of silver metallic flake from the roof and the sides, so I have to mask it off again. And I repainted the roof, and then I also decided maybe this bottom part should be silver too. So now the reds are fine, the silver has been fixed, everything is great. Smooth sailing from here on out, right? Sure. I wish. At this point, I am so happy. Everything is looking so good. The lines between the silver and the red are super crisp, just like I had hoped, thanks to the Tamiya tape. And it's at this point that I realize this kind of looks familiar. Maybe it was coincidence, or maybe my subconscious at work, but my SuperLiner is going to end up looking a lot like this General Motors Future Liner that first came out in the 1940s. This is the same decal set that I used to create my Williams F7s and FP45s for Silver Streak. It's a complete set of decals that also includes multiple graphics to create, I think, 5 or 6 different passenger cars. But I'm going to just use a few up here, and I'm going to use the side graphics that should have been on a locomotive to turn this, what once may have been an Amtrak SuperLiner, into an AMROAD SuperLiner. And this decal setting solution is great for softening the decals and allowing them to conform to any sort of bumpy areas, raised surfaces, rivet detail that could be molded into the plastic of the model. The bottle says that it makes decals look like paint, and if used properly, it actually does. When this has set up, I'm going to spray the entire body of this passenger car with a clear coat. It will seal the decals and protect the paint. Well, that's what I was hoping. There was little trouble later on with the clear coat. The application of the decals went really well. I was totally in love with this passenger car at this point. And then it became time to apply the clear coat. And there were a few problems. For some reason, there was a reaction between the clear coat and the red paint underneath, only in a few areas. I don't know if I hadn't allowed the red paint to cure long enough, or if I sprayed the clear coat on too heavily. But I had to mask off the unaffected areas, try to sand the wrinkled areas the best that I could, repaint the red, wait another week, and then try the clear coat. And eventually it came out pretty good. I purchased this passenger car online from a hobby shop that was going out of business. It seemed like a pretty cool kit, and I don't know if these are the type of windows that MTH would have installed on their own car, but this is what the seller sent me. And I think they'll be fine. Until I'm sure I want to stick with these, I'm going to just hold them in place temporarily with a little bit of this blue painter's tape. I may find some better plastic for the windows later on, but this will be fine. I mean, right? It looks not too bad. I'll figure something out down the road, but this is good enough for now. Once the body and the frame are reunited, 4 screws hold the 2 parts together, and I think I'm done. This project would look good pulled behind maybe this F7 or this larger FP45, neither of which gave me any trouble with the clear coat over the red paint. I still don't get it. This caboose, who knows, maybe that's at the end of the line after this passenger car. And then remember this freight truck? That was just a few weeks ago. Here's the finished SuperLiner for AMROAD. I have mixed emotions about this project because it had so much potential, and I feel like maybe there were so many bumps along the way. I guess they were my fault, maybe my impatience. It turned out pretty good. And I think after a while, looking at it, I think I will say, okay, I really like this. It turned out pretty well. And I'll forget all the struggles that it took to get to this point. But here is an AMROAD SuperLiner. Until next time, this has been Bob's Workshop, and thanks for watching.